The grass courts of Berlin have witnessed legends. Steffi Graf, Boris Becker, names that became synonymous with the surface, with the city, with a particular kind of greatness that announces itself quietly at first, and then all at once. The Rot-Weiss Tennis Club carries that history in every blade of grass, every weathered courtside bench, every corner of the Steffi Graf Stadium, where champions have been made across decades of summer tennis. On the evening of June 15, 2026, a new name announced itself to the German capital. Not with a whisper, with a thunderclap. Alex Eala, 21 years old, born in Quezon City, arrived in Berlin as a wild card, already carrying the weight of a growing nation's hopes and the momentum of a Birmingham title won against every reasonable expectation, walked onto center court to face Donna Vekic. And what followed left the tennis world searching for the right words to describe it. The opponent, a Queen's Club champion in full flight, Donna Vekic, was not a straightforward first-round draw. 29 years old, world number 76, a former Wimbledon semi-finalist and Olympic silver medalist with years of grass court experience woven into her game. A player who understood the surface at a level that most competitors never reach. And arriving in Berlin carrying something that made her genuinely formidable: momentum. The kind of momentum that changes a player, that fills them with a confidence so real and physical it changes how they walk onto court. Just one day before arriving in Berlin, Vekic had completed one of the most stunning grass court title runs of recent memory at the Queen's Club Championships. She had entered the tournament as a lucky loser, not even supposed to be in the main draw. She had come in through the back door and walked out the front holding the trophy, defeating Britain's Emma Raducanu 6-0, 7-6 in the final to cap a six-match winning streak on grass that included victories over 3 players ranked inside the top 30. "I'm very grateful we now have the opportunity to play here as well," she had said after lifting the Queen's Club trophy, her confidence visibly radiating through every word. She arrived in Berlin the Queen's Club champion, riding 6 consecutive grass court wins, and absolutely certain she had the game and the belief to keep the streak alive. On paper, this looked like a dangerous opening round for the young Filipina wildcard. What unfolded on court told an entirely different story. The match, from the first point, everything changed. The opening serve was a declaration. Alex's left-handed delivery tore down the tee at 113 miles per hour, faster than anything she had produced earlier in the grass court season, and Vekic could only watch as it clipped the line and skidded away before her racket had even completed its backswing. The radar gun flashed the number. The crowd stirred. And in that single moment, it became clear that the matchup Vekic had anticipated from previous encounters was not the one she was going to get today. From the very first game, Alex controlled the rhythm. Her left-handed angles, the weapon that had been quietly evolving into one of the most disruptive tools in women's tennis throughout her grass court campaign, immediately created problems Vekic had no framework to solve. The Croatian's ferocious flat ground strokes, the same heavy-hitting baseline game that had overwhelmed Raducanu in the Queen's Club final and dismantled 3 top 30 players in the week before, were being redirected before they could settle. Pulled wide. Stretched out of position, forced into errors that were deeply uncharacteristic from a player in her kind of form. What made it even more striking was the movement. Alex's footwork on the grass looked almost effortless, fluid, balanced, instinctive in a way that is genuinely rare on a surface that punishes hesitation and rewards decisive reading of the ball. She was anticipating Vekic's intentions before the ball had even left the racket, gliding into position early, cutting off angles that should have been winners, and consistently robbing the Croatian of both time and the space she needed to generate her most dangerous shots. The first set was clinical, surgical, and over in 29 minutes. 6-2. In the stands, Philippine flags waved in waves of blue, red, and gold. The chants of lean, rolled across the Steffi Graf Stadium and built into something that felt, for a moment, like more than just tennis. Like recognition. Like pride given sound. The second set. No answers, no resistance. Vekic came out for the second set determined to find something. Any adjustment, any pattern, any disruption that might shift the momentum. She mixed her pace. She rushed the net. She tried to break the rhythm that had been so completely in Alex's hands from the first point of the match. For brief moments, she found small footholds of resistance. But each time she seemed to locate any kind of traction, Alex responded with something cleaner and more decisive. Eala broke early in the second, consolidated her serve, then broke again. The match had stopped being a contest and had become something else, a demonstration. A 29-year-old champion, fresh off the best week of her grass court career, finding that she simply had no answers to what was being done to her. The end came with a clean backhand winner that clipped the sideline, a precise, deliberate stroke that had no business missing and didn't. Alex raised a quiet fist to the crowd. No theatrical celebration. No extended display. Just the acknowledgement of a job done, from someone who already knew the far larger test was still waiting around the corner. Final score, 6-2, 6-2. Vekic walked to the net with her head slightly bowed. Her body language said everything her words would need a moment to catch up to. The numbers, what lived behind the scoreline, the 6-2, 6-2 scoreline was remarkable. The statistics that produced it were extraordinary. Alex won 78% of her first serve points, an elite figure on any surface, but particularly remarkable on grass, where quick conditions give returners additional time on second serves and where even the best servers can be made uncomfortable. She faced just one break point in the entire match and erased it immediately with a venomous ace down the tee, a moment that encapsulated everything about her composure on the day. Her second serve was equally effective throughout, with heavy kick and consistent height pushing Vekic behind the baseline and consistently preventing her from stepping into rallies on her own terms. The ground stroke picture was even more one-sided. Alex struck 22 winners to Vekic's 9. She committed only 11 unforced errors while forcing 18 from the Croatian, a player who had been making nearly everything in the week prior. In the high-speed, flat-hitting baseline exchanges that had defined Vekic's Queen's Club triumph, the very style of play that had dismantled Raducanu and 3 top 30 opponents in sequence, she was comprehensively outmatched from the opening game to the last. The first set lasted 29 minutes, with Alex dropping just 2 games. The second set was even more lopsided. She raced to a 4-0 lead before Vekic finally managed to hold serve, a brief moment of resistance in an otherwise total display of dominance. The significance of the victory extended well beyond the scoreboard in 3 specific ways. First, the opponent. Vekic was no ordinary draw. She was a former Wimbledon semi-finalist and Olympic silver medalist arriving as a reigning WTA 500 grass court champion in peak form. This was not a favorable first-round matchup. This was a legitimate test, and Alex passed it with room to spare. Second, the timing. Alex came into Berlin off a round of 16 defeat to close friend Eva Jakavik at Queen's Club, a 6-2, 6-2 loss that carried its own sting. Rather than carry that setback forward, she transformed it into the fuel for one of her most complete performances of the season. Third, the head-to-head. This was Alex's 3rd consecutive victory over Vekic, each win more comprehensive than the one before it. A growing rivalry had become a clear psychological advantage, and everyone in the sport had now noticed. After the match, grounded, focused, already looking ahead in defeat, Vekic was brief and candid. "She was too good today," the Croatian said, shaking her head slowly. "I had no answers." 6 words from a champion in form. No excuses offered, because there were none that would have made sense. She had brought everything she had. It simply wasn't enough. Alex, at the podium moments later, was composed and characteristically measured. "I knew Donna was playing well coming into this tournament," she said. "She just won Queen's Club, so I knew I had to be sharp from the first point. I'm happy with how I executed. A beat. But I'm not satisfied." She paused before continuing. "Rybakina is waiting, and I know what she's capable of." The world reacts. Berlin and beyond within minutes of the final point, social media had transformed the result into something larger than a first-round victory. Eala Stuns Berlin was trending at #1 in the Philippines, Germany, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Australia near simultaneously. The footage spread fast and far, The kind of digital wildfire that only certain moments in sport can produce, when a performance connects with something deeper than the scoreboard. From Manila, one fan wrote, "She just destroyed the Queen's Club champion 6-2, 6-2 in her first match in Berlin. This is not the same Ella who lost to Djokovic. This is a woman on a mission." Another added, "Vekic was streaking. 6 straight wins on grass, a lucky loser turned Queen's Club champion. And Ella made her look ordinary. That is not just an upset." A third kept it statistical and devastating. 78% first serve points won. 22 winners. Only 11 unforced errors. Those are Grand Slam champion numbers. Alex is ready for Rybakina. In Berlin itself, the reaction was equally charged. German fans who had already embraced Alex as one of their own following tournament director Marcus Soki's emotional gesture, presenting her with a framed image of the Philippine flag he had once painted on the Berlin Wall in 1989, celebrated alongside the traveling Filipino community that had packed into the Steffi Graf Stadium. "She came here as a wild card, and she played like a champion," one Berlin supporter posted. 6-2, 6-2 against the Queen's Club champion. "This is why we love her." Tennis journalists and analysts moved quickly to frame what they had witnessed in its proper context. "This wasn't a fluke, and it wasn't a favorable draw," one commentator noted. "She didn't scrape through. She dismantled a player who had just won a WTA 500 grass court title. The serve was firing, the movement was clean, and the shot selection looked far beyond her age." Another added, "The Ella effect is real, but let's be clear, she can actually play tennis. She just made a top 80 player look like she belonged in qualifying. Rybakina better be ready." Even the sport's most celebrated voices weighed in. Boris Becker, 3-time Wimbledon champion, and one of the people who had personally extended an invitation for Alex to compete in Berlin, offered his assessment without hesitation. "World-class tennis from Alex Eala. The serve, the movement, the composure, she belongs in the top 20. Mark my words." Venus Williams, set to partner with Alex in doubles at the Bad Homburg Open, posted a single word in response. "Loving." What waits next? The rematch. The press conference ended. The cameras shut off. The celebration in the stands gradually quieted. But the anticipation that replaced it was, if anything, louder than anything that had come before. Waiting in the second round was world number 2 Elena Rybakina, the 2022 Wimbledon champion. A player whose game is constructed specifically for this surface, flat, penetrating ground strokes that skid low and fast off the grass, a serve clocked at 127 miles per hour, and a composure under pressure that had delivered her the sport's most prestigious title 4 years ago. The two had met just weeks earlier at the Italian Open in Rome. Rybakina had controlled it from start to finish, winning 6-4, 6-3 in a match that was competitive in stretches, but where the Wimbledon champion had been in command of every critical moment. "I learned a lot from that loss," Alex said after her press conference. "I know what to expect now. I know what I need to do differently. And I'm excited for the challenge." The path through the Berlin draw beyond Rybakina was brutal in its own right. A potential quarterfinal against either Alexandra Sasnovich or Veronika Kudermetova, both top 20 players with the experience and baseline depth to punish any lapse in concentration. Beyond that, a potential semifinal against world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka or number 4 Jessica Pegula. There was no easy route through this draw. There had never been intended to be. But Alex Eala wasn't looking past the next match. She never was. "She's one of the best in the world," she said of Rybakina. "I have to be at my best, but I believe I can win." And then, before leaving the press conference room, she added the line that her fans had heard before, the one that never changed, regardless of the opponent or the occasion or the weight of what was being asked of her. "Every time I step on the court, I'm playing for the Philippines. That's always in the back of my mind. That's what drives me." The rematch was set for Wednesday, June 17th. A place in the quarterfinals on the line. The Wimbledon seeding cutoff closing in. And a 21-year-old wild card from Quezon City who had just dismantled the Queen's Club champion in 29 minutes on each set, standing between the tennis world and the answer to the question everyone was now asking. Was she ready for the very best? Berlin was about to find out. Laban always